everybody, it's Cheyenne and welcome back to my channel. And I have bananas on my shirt. I actually love this shirt from Old Navy. I got this shirt from Old Navy. And I showed it to my friends and they were like, bananas. But I think it's adorable. It has bananas and limes on it. But anywho, let's get back to this video. So this video, and if you don't know, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I am a dental assistant. I do a lot of dental assisting videos. And this is going to be a story time about the scariest patient experience I ever had in my life. And it actually happened to me a few months out of school, and it was terrifying, and it really made me rethink being a dental assistant. So I used to work in a dental office. It actually was the same dental office that I've talked about in another video, working for the worst dentist in town. If you wanted to check that out, this dentist would sometimes have other dentists work in his office when he was out of town, and he would have an orthodontist and an oral surgeon come in. So this was an experience with the oral surgeon that came into the office. Now, this oral surgeon, he was retired, but he worked a couple times a month when this doctor was out of town. So he was older. He was probably late 60s. And he was very, very old school. We had to put his gloves on for him. Yeah, he was just really odd. And he did oral surgery, so, you know, the whole room was covered in plastic. So it was always this big thing when he came. We had to cover everything in plastic, which is great for sterile, but, you know, putting your gloves on for your dentist and stuff was just kind of awkward. But, you know, you do it. So, anywho, so this person actually came in and they were getting their wisdom teeth extracted. So, of course, I set up the room. This doctor comes in, gets the patient numb. Now, there are certain extractions that become surgical, and wisdom teeth can definitely be surgical because if they're impacted or underneath the gum tissue, you're going to have to do surgery to get these teeth out. And they will use a surgical handpiece to do so. Now, a surgical handpiece is like a long, straight handpiece, and it has a big surgical burr at the end of it. Now, they will use the burr to, of course, penetrate the gum tissue and the bone, and they remove the bone around the tooth so they can get the tooth out. Or they will section the tooth to make it easier for extraction. But in this case, he was just going through the gum and the bone to get to the wisdom tooth. So he was doing this, and he pulled it out and realized that the burr was kind of dull. So he asked me for a new one. I handed him the burr, and you never hand burrs to the doctor over the patient. You always go behind. So I handed it behind the patient. He grabbed it. Now, for some reason, he decided to remove the old burr and place the new burr onto the handpiece over the patient. And the burr ended up falling into the patient's mouth. So I grabbed my suction real quick, tried to grab it, but the patient had a reaction, and she just it startled her and she swallowed it. Well, she kind of was like, and she swallowed it. This is me a few months out of school, and I was like, oh crap. And I didn't really think about what happened. I was like, oh, she swallowed it. It will probably just, digest. And the burrs, they're tiny, but they are a little bit sharp, but they're not super sharp. It's not like swallowing like a scalpel or something like that. So in my mind, I was like, oh, hopefully, not good, but hopefully not terrible. But all of a sudden, she starts vomiting. So she leans over to me and she's throwing up. She's throwing up on herself. So I jump out of my chair and I'm like, crap. So I grab a trash can, I grab some towels, and the doctor's, trying to help her. He tells me to go call 911. So I run up to the front desk, tell them to call 911, that someone swallowed a surgical burr and she's vomiting. So we're trying to help her. She's vomiting. We take her outside, and the ambulance shows up. They take her. I have to clean up the room, which was not fun. I actually ended up finding out that she inhaled the burr. So the burr got lodged in her lungs. So that's why she was having trouble breathing and she was throwing up, because this burr was actually lodged in her lungs. So she had to go to the hospital and have emergency surgery to have this burr removed from her lungs. I was just like, oh my God. Long story short, the lady is perfectly fine. She had to have surgery, but she's fine. But I was absolutely terrified because I just got out of school. I was so worried that I was going to be blamed, but I wasn't. The doctor that I worked with took responsibility for it. He said it was his fault, not mine. Thank goodness, because I totally could have been fired over that. Let's just say that he retired and didn't do anything else. But the weirdest thing was the office I worked in was strange enough, but I came in the next morning and there was this huge box of oranges there. And I was like, who are these oranges for? And they were actually for the patient. They were going to send her a box of oranges, which I don't know why you'd send her oranges. I thought that was strange. I was like, why are we sending her oranges? But yeah, they of course covered all the medical expenses. It was extremely scary and disgusting. A lot of vomit, and yeah. Just beware, medical emergencies can happen. I've had people faint, get lightheaded. You know, it's a scary thing. But yes, a very scary thing as an assistant is when something is dropped in the mouth and you have that suction and it's your job to suck that out. Especially when you're doing like extractions and teeth fall or things like that. It can be scary. But yeah, a very, very scary thing that happened. I was like, ah! But luckily she's okay. Terrifying. I luckily haven't really had anything else scary really happen. Like I said, I've had a few people get lightheaded, but they were okay. Nothing else to where we had to call like the ambulance and the person was vomiting and had to have surgery. I did work somewhere once where, so you clean out your lines. Usually, every office is different, but we used a certain solution that you cleaned it out once a month. And what it is this like these chemicals that you suck up your suction or run through your air water, and you leave it in overnight, and then the next morning you have to rinse it out. Well, this stuff is pink, so you can tell when you run your water, and you can tell when this shock is called shock, and you can tell when the shock is rinsed out of the line because your water will become clear. Well, there was an assistant, I don't know if she forgot to rinse it out of her line before her first patient or what, or she did it. She says she did it, but we all think she didn't. But anyways, so she sat the patient, they were getting a filling done, and the doctor went to squirt water in the patient's mouth, and the water was pink. So the shock was still in the line. And the shock is a chemical, it's poisonous. So the doctor, of course, was like, oh my gosh. And this patient ended up being under 18. The patient was, I think, 17 or 16, and the parent guardian was not there, and they were actually at work. So the doctor had to pay out of pocket for this patient to take a taxi to the hospital to just make sure they didn't get poisoned or anything like that. And then the doctor had to pay, you know, for the testing and everything to make sure the patient was okay, and the doctor visit. And yeah, it was bad. That assistant, this all happened in the morning, and let's just say that assistant was gone by lunchtime. So, not fun. Very scary. Which I feel very bad for her because, you know, accidents happen, we forget things, but you have to be really careful when dealing with like chemicals and things like that, because a little accident like that or forgetting to do something can poison somebody. But again, this patient was okay, nothing happened, but yeah, not good for the assistant, not good at all. But yeah. If you guys have any like crazy stories or anything, please leave them down below. I totally want to see them. But those are just the two of the scary things that I have seen since assisting. I'm so thankful there hasn't been more. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.